On behalf of the Communications Committee, please welcome a familiar face to many, Rob Myers, President of Republic Business Credit, and our immediate past chapter president. Rob, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for agreeing to be on the 10 spot today.
David, it's great to see you as well.
Thank you. I wanted to take a moment to thank you as a platinum sponsor. Unfortunately, as you know, we're not able to get together face to face, but wanted to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself to members of the TMA Chicago Midwest chapter who may not know you and may not know about Republic Business Credit, and also get a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So please tell me about Republic Business Credit.
David, thank you for that. And obviously, I don't think our community could be more valued than it is at a time like this. So everyone that's hearing this, I know it's been busy, but it's about to get really busy. From our end, we're on the working capital side, typically kind of facilities up to about $10 million. Those are going to be done through asset-based lending, factoring, non-recourse factoring, and we also do some direct-to-consumer loans. Again, the profiles of those businesses are going to be private equity owned. We'll skew towards asset-based lending. Kind of your closely held businesses, depending on if they're in kind of a growth cycle or decline cycle, are going to skew maybe into the factoring plus. But at the end of the day, we have the chance to get to know entrepreneurs and provide working capital on receivables, inventory, and equipment. And every business has a story. If you're doing really well, please go call a bank. Don't call us until after they've said no. We kind of fit when you have a need. And that's why we have so much in common and why we partner so much with the Turnaround Management Association.
And tell me a little bit more about the need states of your clients. What are some of the circumstances where a traditional bank may not be as well equipped to handle someone's financing requirements as Republic Business Credit?
Yeah, so in February, that answer was different than it is today, right? I think everyone has a need, if only for a backup plan, which is how we found ourselves kind of pre-February, right? Hey, call Republic, get something that works, but if we can get a bank offer, we'll go down that path. Obviously, since then, we've seen a huge increase in extended terms from large companies, which then fall outside of eligibility requirements for others. So in some cases, we're taking the entire deal away from a bank. In other cases, we're just carving out a few customers to net 90, net 120, net 150 type terms, where for us, that's still eligible, where it might not be on a traditional facility. In a lot of cases, especially in our apparel CPG portfolio and food and beverage, it's if you can put a piece of food on a shelf of Costco, they want you. As long as you can put some packaging over it, they can call it whatever. And so in that cases, they might need a little mobilization facility or a little PO financing to get the stuff needed to get there, and they need an immediate decision. And that might be to buy another deep fryer or something along those lines to help them get there. And then on the flip side, we've had some customers pivot into the PPE space, whether that's face masks or gowns or the plastic shields that you're starting to see at grocery stores. And they need to be able to go from doing $1 million to 10. And they don't have time to wait around a month to fulfill the order. They kind of lose it if they don't get it in a week or two. So a lot of it these days is urgency, and it's flexibility to what is, you're not necessarily sure as a business owner what's going to happen next week. But those are the most common we've seen. In some cases, it's, I had a cash flow covenant and I haven't had cash flow in 90 days, and I need some help too.
Sure.
There are a lot of those these days, unfortunately, as well.
Sure. And tell me again, what are the typical deal size ranges that you deal with?
Yeah, so we have a product kind of really tuned into startups where it might be their first invoice. And then kind of on the flip side of that, I'd say the largest business is going to be 75, 100 million in revenue. Obviously, if they're doing a carve out, it could be larger. But the majority of our borrowers are going to be kind of 5, 10 million to 50 million in revenue, with kind of working capital needs up to about $10, $12 million facilities. Of course, with that said, we have a couple food and beverage companies that are now borrowing $15 million or so from us because, well, they were in the right spot at the right time, took advantage of an opportunity, or are just blowing and going, and they'll kind of come back to reality in the future. But so we've seen a lot of different versions of it, and we have some facilities on our apparel side which have $0 facilities because they've unfortunately been largely dormant since about the 16th of March, when a lot of the shelter-in-place orders went around. And now we get to start talking about kind of what the reopening plans are. It's been a really interesting world in consumer packaged goods for sure.
Sure. Rob, there's a lot of companies out there providing business credit. What makes your company unique? What's your point of difference?
Yeah, I've always told people you can have a whole bunch of cool AdWords on your website, but it's all kind of nonsense. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a people-led organization. People happen to like us more. They laugh with us a little bit more, so they give us some chances. I think largely there's a lot of different solutions out there. In today's world, myself and my business partner are the only two managing members. We own 60% of the business. So you're not some magic credit committee in the sky, not some big giant fund. You actually talk to other business owners. And I think that always resonates and connects across the country. And we know what we're really good at. We stay out of the stuff we don't. We're not trying to do large deals. There's plenty of people that are just better equipped and better capitalized to do that. For us, we take a little bit of extra time. We understand the story. We can do a $2 or $3 million ABL deal where other people say that's not worth the money. Well, for us, it is, because for me, that's a client I could have for 3 or 6 years and will eventually graduate onto a traditional bank facility. But for us, it kind of starts with people, and we have a little bit more fun than most.
Well, you've certainly gotten a lot of value out of TMA membership, I'm sure, being a past chapter president. But give me a little bit more insight. How has TMA been an important part of your business?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a large percentage of our current clients have come from relationships with the TMA. In the last 60 days, most of the people I've talked to are members of the TMA. And that is not necessarily the members you think of in turnaround consulting firms, although we're in due diligence on a few. We're using CROs from the organization, which is phenomenal. But sometimes it's the indirect ones. It's someone that Mitch Rasky from CIBC, who's been a long time member of the organization, will say, hey, I might have a situation. I don't necessarily know someone. Can you give me an advice? I talked to Tom Jones or Bill. People are long time members of the organization that they're looking for lenders in this space that are still actively lending. And so sometimes we can help by simply, hey, here's a couple names that we know and trust, and more importantly, are still lending right now. And I think there's the bit that's a little softer, which is companionship. We've spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And when the world feels like it's ending, sometimes it's good to just talk to someone else to know that your feelings aren't alone. And two, it actually isn't. There are some positive. There is some optimism. There's some pain coming, right? It's not over. There's still an awful lot more payables, and there are abilities to service those in some sectors. But fundamentally, just having someone else along for the ride can be just an insurmountable thing. And for me, especially in the years leading up to being president, I got to know so many people I never would have known, right? And we both took the time. We sat down and had a cocktail or a coffee or now a Zoom call. And even if we're not necessarily conducting business, it's so many people that I've known and trust, and I know someday we will do something together. And if not, I'll be able to introduce someone to them where they'll be able to help. So it's been great.
Hey, I've got one more for you here. Of course, we're getting together by Zoom during an unprecedented time. I'm curious what some of the advice that you're giving to your clients to help them manage the impact of the pandemic having on their business.
Yeah, it's obviously such a broad question because I could probably talk for 12 hours and go through each industry subset. I think beyond the obvious advice, which is talk to your lender, hoard cash, all the things that people are going to tell you, I would say for us, the biggest advice is right now it feels like a firefight, and you're having to address issue by issue by issue. And I've found a lot of business owners are having trouble seeing the forest through the trees. And so I've always asked them this very simple question: just stop for a moment. If we fast forward to September, who are the 70 or 80% of customers that you still want to have? Who are the 7 to 80% of employees that you can't afford to lose? Make decisions kind of based on that trajectory. Yes, you have to deal with the issue today, but if you just with today's issue, all of a sudden you could find yourself in September and not have the people and not have the business and not have the knowledge you need to actually be successful when you get out of firefighting mode. And I think it's the hardest thing. I've seen business owners and people just get enraged whatever the topic was, right? When you're frustrated at productivity levels, or you're frustrated at PPP, whatever. And I've told them to don't just go drink booze, even though I'm sure that consumption is massively up for most people. Just get out of the house, go for a walk, go for a run, go play golf, do something that isn't this. I've made most of my underwriters take off Fridays during this. I've encouraged our acquisition teams and our client service teams to, hey, take a Friday afternoon off. Do something. I don't care that you can't go anywhere, but you need a mental break from this 8 to 8 working schedule that we all have, because there are no boundaries. And I think that breath has helped a lot. I know there was a time in April, what is it, about 4 or 5 weeks into this, where I hadn't left the house in 4 days. And granted, we were snowing in Chicago and blah, 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 but it was awful. I was in a bad mood. I was a little depressed. I was angry. And I was like, whoa, and I got outside every day for the next couple of days, and was able to smile again. But as I said, the tough moments aren't over. I would just say, don't save your vacation for post-COVID. Take some of it now, and do not have a phone on you for a little bit. It's been heavenly. It's been a lot.
Well, Rob, that is really great advice. I got a lot of bang for my buck with that question. And I wanted just to say thank you so much for your continued support of the chapter. Thank you for your leadership. You're an invaluable TMA member, and I look forward to the opportunity to see you again in person. Hopefully sooner than later. Time will tell. Thanks for joining me on the 10 spot. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, David.